Good morning, DC. Stretch out those legs and get ready to welcome in the beautiful, beautiful day. And what better way to welcome it in than a companion such as the Capitol Hoop Caucus. I'm Wardell McCabe, and I'm joined, as always, by my two co-hosts. First is a man who you can catch racing through the streets of Manassas in his GMC Sierra. It's Isaac Hodgkin Harris, and the man to his left is a man who you can catch cruising through the district in his Dodge Challenger. It's Troy Halliburton. Gentlemen, how are you feeling this week?
I'm feeling amazing right now, man.
It's been a long week. It's been a long week, but it's all positive, though. It's all positive.
Long week, but let's go ahead and bring in this week. We're going to recap it with something we're going to launch every week going forward, a question of the week. And for the very first one, let me just ask you both. First, Isaac, I'll ask you, what's a random thing you thought of this week?
A random? Probably ice cream, like homemade ice cream, making it.
Mm-hmm. Making homemade ice cream. Okay.
Yeah, that's not in, and I realize I do not have, although I think I have the power to do it, it's not
The power to do it.
I can do it, but you probably shouldn't. It's probably going to taste bad, so no.
Hey, man, you got to believe in yourself. Where's the confidence at? Come on now.
No, it's ice cream, though. Yeah.
All right, Troy, how about you? What's something Randy thought of?
The random thought that comes to my mind is the phrase when idols become rivals. And as I'm sitting back here watching Alcaraz just take it to his idol, Novak Djokovic, it just really disturbs me as to how good this guy is at tennis. It's disturbing. It's disturbing.
I can't confirm. It's getting pretty tense here right now. But one thing that I thought of pretty randomly, and I put a lot of thought into this, and I just want to clarify this on the front end. I think that he's a very stand-up guy. Everything I've seen on him on social media, he seems very genuine and nice. Keanu Reeves, he seems like a great guy, but I just really wish he knew how to act. You know? I think I've been struggling with that.
This is rage bait.
Rage bait. It's not rage bait. He's just playing the same person and he's just Keanu Reeves and everything.
Oh my God, we're not going to have Neo from the Matrix slander here.
Rage bait. Like no.
Okay, Neo. Let's just break down Neo. It's just Keanu Reeves in a computer, right? That's all he is. Everything he does is just Keanu Reeves. There's no range to him. Can't act himself out of a bag. But anyways, we're not a Keanu Reeves-based podcast. We are, in fact, a basketball podcast. Isn't that right, Troy?
Yes, we are trying to be the preeminent basketball show in the DMV area, covering all levels of hoops from high school to college to the pros, to from women's game to the men's game. Like if they're throwing the round ball up, we're covering it.
Absolutely, and we are covering it on the radio airways. That's right. You can catch us every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN 630. Or if you can't listen on the radio, or if you're just not from the DMV area, then just know that you can catch us on the podcast feed wherever it is that you get your podcast. But as a nice, gentle reminder, too, we're also on YouTube. That's right. This is the second time we are on YouTube. So if our host wouldn't mind just looking right at that camera and giving a little nice little wave. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. But let's start to focus on today's show because we've got a pretty chock-full episode today. We'll be recapping what's happened with the Mystics over the past 2 weeks, namely their losing streak, and also a recent signing that they've made. And from there, we'll discuss some new developments with a Washington Wizards point guard who seems to have earned himself some new representation. And then there's also some G League changes which may affect the Capital City Go-Go. So we'll touch on that a little bit too. But back to the Wizards, though. They've had some players participating in the FIBA AmeriCup and Eurobasket. So we'll give an update there. And we'll also continue grading the off-seasons around the association this week, keying in on the Central Division. We'll be answering some of your questions that you submitted to us too. And to close things out, we'll have trivia time from the line. But first, let's go ahead and kick things off with the Beltway Beat. As I said there, we're starting with the Washington Mystics. It's been 2 weeks since we've been able to give you all an update on the Mystics because last week we had a very special episode which we recorded live at the UABL's Tournament of Nations. So let's just quickly go through the last few games for the Mystics since we've checked in with y'all. They had an 81-91 loss to the Aces, then an 82-84 loss to the Storm, then a 63-89 loss at the Liberty, 62-99 loss at Golden State. They're still not able to get that elusive win over the expansion franchise. A 78-81 loss to the Sparks, and then a 69-75 loss to the Mercury. A lot of losses there. Those losses bring their current losing streak now to 8. and at 16-26 on the season, they've been eliminated from playoff contention. So, my question to you both first: what have you felt over the last 2 weeks of Mystics basketball, Troy?
Man, it's been a rough watch. It's the thing that I think that is kind of most frustrating is the fact that we used to really commend the Mystics at the beginning of the season for being competitive and being in almost every game. And so for them to get the doors blown off of them in some of these games, like that's the thing that's really concerning, and I really have taken note of over the last 2 weeks. And I think that this is, I think that we all thought that this would be a, rebuilding season for the Mystics coming into this season. But I think once they, started out as hot as they did, I think that the level of expectations kind of shifted a little bit. But, it's a harsh reality to come back down to earth and have them finish the season the way that they are.
Yeah, they've definitely performed like the team that at least I thought they were going to be going into the season. They had that high point where, as Troy, you mentioned, they were in just about every single game they were playing in, and that kind of disappeared. I think we probably should have seen this coming post-trade deadline, right? They got rid of, admittedly, 2 of their 5 or 6 best players, right? And so I think we all expected somewhat of a come down to earth, but those first 4 games post-trade deadline, they were still in each of those games, and so to see the loss that they had with the Liberty, not great, but then to follow that up with having an almost identical loss to the Valkyries, somehow worse, it's very disheartening to say the least.
Yeah, no, I feel for Mystics fans. You were so high up, and now like the way we're ending, and the old saying, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. We're not finishing the way we started, and not finishing strong is kind of a letdown, but you can only hope that maybe this goes into the grand plan of possibly doing well in the lottery. But even then, for me personally, I don't know. I have no belief in that. So we'll see. It's rough.
All right, well, we'll talk a little bit more about what we see for the team going forward. But I will note there are some high points over the past 2 weeks. Sonia Citrone, she set the WNBA record for the most double-digit scoring performances by a rookie in their initial season. So that's a pretty big win. But to focus on the future of the team here, where do they go, Troy?
Well, they go to the draft war room. That's where they go. Like, when you're looking at the fact that, okay, they finished the season, they're on an 8-game losing streak, and then I think a lot of people need to be very familiar with the WNBA draft lottery rules, where they compile the records of the last 2 years to use as the draft lottery standings. And so the Mystics are now 30-52 in the last 2 seasons. So that puts them in the 4th slot as far as the draft lottery concerns are. And so, that gives them a shot at, possibly getting one of those top picks. And they also have 2 other first-round draft picks in this year's draft. So, the as soon as the last game of the year against the New York Liberty ends, then I think that the Washington Mystics will directly pivot into their college scouting and trying to figure out how they can add some young players to this already young core.
All right, let's focus on what it is that they should be trying to add, and by doing so, let's examine this 8-game losing streak. Where do you think that things went off the rails for them, and what will be the biggest needs of improvement for this offseason?
Well, we've been saying it all year, and I think that, they have had a glaring hole at the point guard position. They've had a lot of players out there playing the point guard position, but they really are missing a floor general who can go out there and set up their teammates and make those ladies better. Like right now, I think that, the biggest weakness on this team is being able to have some shot creation.
And I have to agree with you that on Troy. That's the big thing right there is they need a floor general that can not only help create shots, but can help create shots for others, but also create her own shot as well. Brittany Sykes showed that with you have a strong scoring guard, this offense looks amazing under Coach Sidney Johnson. But you need someone that can't just also score. You need someone that can also set up Sonia to score, because we already see that she is a double-figure machine. If you have the perfect point guard that can play a little defense and set up Sonia, Kiki, and everybody else and make other players playmakers and other threats, you have the perfect point guard.
Yeah, and they definitely have some chances and opportunities to pick that player up because, as Troy mentioned, they not only have the fourth best odds in the lottery, but they also have 2 additional first round picks. And one of those we'll have to circle back on a couple episodes ago when Aaliyah Edwards was traded to Connecticut. They essentially swapped the ability to choose the higher of either New York or Minnesota's picks. And at the time, New York was the second best team in the league. So it really looked like they were swapping from pick 15 to pick 14. But New York has also had their own struggles over the last month. And so right now, New York is actually only just 1 game above Golden State. So there's a very slim chance here that Washington, for consecutive drafts, has 3 picks in the top 10. So it's definitely another opportunity for them to just another prospect to bring in, another high touted prospect. Obviously, some of the teams that are going to be ahead of them, we're going to talk a little bit more about the draft lottery odds. Dallas currently has the best odds to win the lottery. So, they obviously just got the number 1 overall pick. They will have the best odds to do so again this upcoming season. Behind them is the Sky. And then still ahead of the Mystics. Who is it that is still ahead of the Mystics?
Los Angeles Sparks.
Yeah, the Sparks. And so quick notes on those, though. So the Sky actually don't have the rights to that pick. Minnesota does. So that's going to be great. Rich getting a little bit richer there. And then the Sparks don't have the rights to their pick. That's going to go to Chicago. So Chicago will still have a pick in there. They have Connecticut's pick. So Chicago will still have likely a top 5 pick, but Connecticut no longer will. And so it's just a little interesting to see how that's going to bounce around, also picking ahead of the Mystics, not in the lottery, but elsewhere. Why it is that Washington's likely going to get picked 10 or 11 is because there's 2 expansion teams in there. They're going to kind of put a wrench in all this. How do you think that those teams are going to pick, and how do you think that Washington tries to counter that? Obviously, these 2 teams, they're going to be looking for best player available. Do you think that that could limit what Washington has at their next 2 picks in that first round? And do you think that that's going to restrict whether or not they can find that playmaker?
Yeah, I think that they're going to go into this college basketball season with their eye on a couple of players, and I'm going to go out on the limb that one of those players is going to be AZ Fudd. Mm-hmm. And I think that, she already has great ties with that organization. Like, she comes to a lot of Mystics games. And, I know that they did their due diligence on her for this year's draft. And, I think that there could have been a good chance that she, could have been selected if she had decided to come out. But because she decided to go back to school at UConn and play out her senior year, I think that she has a chance to really, go out there and have an All-American type of season. And if she does that, then I think that that's a name that the Mystics would definitely be lucky to grab in the first round.
I know Isaac, obviously, there haven't been any games played this season, so it's really all just a massive question mark. But are there any players that you think that they should be trying to key on before the season even starts?
Other than AZ Fudd, who would be a great dream, I think they should keep out their name for Olivia Miles. Mm-hmm. She's a very fascinating prospect when it comes to being at that guard spot, and especially she's going to have a big year at TCU, which has been now dubbed as, Transfer U, because Haley Van Heath, revitalized her draft stock sort of when she went there to finish her transfer year. So I'm anticipating Olivia Miles to show out and possibly be a more reasonable pick. I know I would love, in a perfect world, I'd love to see AZ back in this uniform, but I think the Mystics need to also keep in reality that she might be if she has the season that everyone's anticipating, she's going to be a very popular pick that we might not be able to have access to. So to try to work around that, look at Olivia Miles and maybe see, even if you get down a little lower, to trade a little lower and find a hidden gem in the rock that the casual basketball fan wouldn't know, such as another Sonia Citron, but who's a guard who a lot of casual fans didn't initially think about until she got drafted. So that's what I'm more kind of looking at.
Well, Miles could be an interesting one. Obviously, she has playing time and experience with Citron. So Obviously, they have roots back at Notre Dame. But let's look back on this season, right? It's not fully done yet, but obviously their record is a little bit higher than I anticipated going into the season. It's also higher than what Vegas had anticipated. So even with them closing out the season the way they had, I do think that there is a success to say for this season. It's definitely, they had some high points. So let me just ask, Isaac, what were your high points from this season?
we have a sense of direction, and you have a rookie tandem that you can actually build around. You have a foundation. And when you lay down a foundation, it sets up for a stable house. And I think that's what I liked out of my high point is that drafting Kiki and Sonia sets up at least the starting of a stable building.
All right, Troy?
The high point has to be having 3 All-Stars. That to me is, very significant for a team that was very clearly rebuilding coming into this year, and for them to have 3 All-Stars and 2 of them being rookies, like I think that that makes the future very bright.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, well, let's move on from the what ifs to tangible news with the team. The Mystics announced that they have actually re-signed guard Madison Scott to a rest of season contract. They announced that on Thursday, September 4th. So congratulations are in order for her there as she earned her spot after playing on a string of 7-day deals. Let's move on, though, quickly to the Washington Wizards. Per David Aldridge, Bub Carrington is now being represented by Rich Paul in Clutch Sports Group. Troy, what effects, if any, will this have?
Well, I think, number one, it's good to have Clutch Sports be back in the fold with the Washington Wizards. They haven't had a client with the Wizards since Contavious Caldwell-Pope was here, and he was traded. They also represented John Wall. And I know that, Rich Paul used to, when John Wall was at his height, Rich Paul used to be, at a lot of Wizards games. And so, it's just good to have – the Wizards be back in the fold of, some of the big players in the game. And so, Rich Paul, to me, I think that he's so strategic with a lot of the things that he does. And so it's good for it's good for Clutch Sports to kind of plant their flag and, have, Bub Carrington on the team. So, Bub can be here, scouting out and letting Rich Paul know that, whether it's a good spot for other Clutch clients and maybe, use that as a leverage play to help get some more talented players coming into DC.
Yeah, most definitely. All right. Well, going elsewhere into DC, let's focus in on the Capital City Go-Go. I mentioned there's some changes coming to the G League. Isaac, what are those changes?
Those changes are to the playoff format. So in the G League, we have a couple more teams entering into the playoff format, expanding that playoffs, and also starting off the tip-off a little bit. The reason why this news is a little more significant is that usually when you have only 6 teams participating, the odds of seeding kind of dictates on where it all goes. Last year, the Capital City Go-Go at one point was a number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, but after one loss, dropped almost all the way down to the 6th seed, to the bottom half of the seeds in the playoffs. Now with an expanded playoff, gives a little more equal opportunity for any of those popular G League teams that want a possible home game. It kind of helps out and adds on for that.
All right, then we'll see how that progresses as the season is getting ready for their kickoff as well. But we're going to take a quick time out here. When we get back, we'll talk about the FIBA AmeriCup and Eurobasket. You're listening to Capital Hoop Caucus on the ESPN 630 and the ESPN 630 app.